Hey, gorgeous souls! I'm Jennifer, and I'm about to tell you the most satisfying wedding revenge story that turned my husband's innocent question into the moment an entire family realized they'd been tormenting the wrong person, and how one simple remark at a reception destroyed years of their arrogance and lies. When my husband Mark stood up during my nephew's wedding reception and asked, "Isn't it wonderful that Jennifer finally gets to see her son get married after everything she's done for this family?" The room went silent. What the Groom's family didn't know was that I wasn't just a random guest. I was the aunt who'd raised their son for 15 years while they partied and abandoned him. And Mark's question exposed their lies about why I wasn't in the family photos. But here's where this wedding remark revenge gets absolutely insane. The groom's parents had been telling everyone for years that I was just a jealous sister-in-law who caused family drama, when actually I'd spent my life savings raising their abandoned child while they lived it up in Europe. When Mark's simple question forced them to admit the truth in front of 200 guests, they lost their social standing and had to publicly apologize for 15 years of lies. This story has everything: child abandonment, family lies, wedding confrontations, public apologies, and the kind of generational revenge that turned one innocent question into the complete destruction of a family's fake reputation. Y'all ready for this family truth bomb? Because this is how one wedding question became the most expensive sentence my brother-in-law's family ever heard. Beautiful souls, let me take you back to 17 years ago when my brother-in-law Daniel and his wife Patricia abandoned their 3-year-old son Tommy with me, then spent the next 15 years telling everyone I was a difficult family member who caused problems. I'm Jennifer Collins, 52 years old, and I work as a school principal while raising what everyone thinks is my own son, but who's actually my nephew Tommy that I've been caring for since he was a toddler. My husband Mark Collins, 54, is a retired firefighter who's been an amazing father figure to Tommy throughout his childhood and teenage years. My brother-in-law Daniel Rodriguez, 48, and his wife Patricia, 45, were young parents who decided that raising a child interfered with their dreams of traveling and living an exciting lifestyle. We're not ready for the responsibility of parenthood. Daniel told me when Tommy was 3, "We need to figure out our lives before we can be good parents. Tommy would be better off with you temporarily," Patricia said while dropping off their son with 2 suitcases. "You're so good with children, and you have a stable home. It's just for a few months while we get our finances together," Daniel promised while leaving his son in my care. "We'll come back for him when we're ready." Mark and I took Tommy in because we loved him and couldn't bear to see a child abandoned, even though we'd been struggling with infertility ourselves. "Tommy needs a loving home," Mark said when we agreed to care for him. "We can give him stability while Daniel and Patricia figure out their lives." The temporary arrangement lasted 15 years, with Daniel and Patricia visiting sporadically while living in Europe and pursuing careers in international business. "Tommy is doing so well with you," Daniel would say during his rare visits. "We don't want to disrupt his stability by taking him back too soon." Instead of acknowledging that they'd abandoned their son, Daniel and Patricia created a false narrative that made me appear to be the problem in our family dynamics. "Jennifer is very controlling about Tommy," Patricia would tell relatives and friends. "She doesn't like sharing custody and makes it difficult for us to spend time with our son." "Jennifer has boundary issues," Daniel would claim. "She's too attached to Tommy and interferes with our parenting decisions." The lies escalated over the years as Daniel and Patricia built successful careers and social lives while I raised their child with my own resources. "Jennifer caused so much family drama that we had to limit our visits," Patricia would explain their absence to concerned relatives. "Tommy is confused by Jennifer's possessiveness," Daniel would claim. "We're trying to protect him from family conflict." Their false narrative painted me as a jealous, interfering sister-in-law rather than the woman who'd sacrificed her own dreams to raise their abandoned child. "Jennifer never had children of her own, so she's overly attached to Tommy," Patricia would tell people, not mentioning that they'd voluntarily given him up. The lies became so established that extended family members began treating me as the problem rather than Daniel and Patricia as negligent parents. "Jennifer needs to let Daniel and Patricia be parents," relatives would tell me. She's making family relationships difficult. Meanwhile, I was spending my savings on Tommy's education, medical care, and activities while Daniel and Patricia sent occasional gifts and cards when Tommy got engaged to his college girlfriend, Sarah, last year. Daniel and Patricia immediately took control of wedding planning as if they'd been involved parents throughout his life. "We're so excited about Tommy's wedding," Patricia announced to the family. "We want to give him the perfect celebration. As Tommy's parents, we'll handle all the wedding arrangements," Daniel declared while taking credit for raising a successful young man. "Daniel and Patricia excluded me from wedding planning decisions. Despite the fact that I'd been Tommy's primary parent for 15 years, Jennifer can attend as a guest," Patricia told Tommy when he asked about my involvement. "But parents should handle the important decisions. We don't want family drama to overshadow Tommy's special day," Daniel said when Tommy questioned why I wasn't included in planning. "They also excluded Mark and me from family photos and seating arrangements, treating us like distant relatives rather than Tommy's real parents. Jennifer and Mark can sit with other extended family. Patricia planned our seating away from the parents' table. The family photos should focus on immediate family," Daniel said while excluding the people who'd actually raise his son. Tommy was caught in the middle, wanting to include me but pressured by his biological parents to minimize my role in his life and wedding. "Mom Jennifer has done everything for me," Tommy would tell me privately. "But Dad," Daniel says, including you too much will hurt their feelings." The wedding planning became a battleground where Daniel and Patricia tried to rewrite history while I was forced to accept secondary status. Gorgeous souls. Tommy's wedding day became the culmination of 15 years of lies when Daniel and Patricia publicly treated me like a distant relative while taking credit for raising the amazing young man I'd sacrificed everything to nurture. At the wedding ceremony, Mark and I were seated in the third row with cousins and distant relatives while Daniel and Patricia occupied the front row as parents of the groom. Jennifer and Mark are sitting with extended family. The wedding coordinator confirmed our relegated seating status. Tommy looked uncomfortable seeing us pushed to the back while his biological parents, who'd barely raised him, received places of honor. "This doesn't feel right," Tommy whispered to Sarah during photos. "Mom Jennifer should be in the family pictures. Your parents don't want family drama," Sarah replied, having been influenced by Daniel and Patricia's false narrative about my supposed interference during family photos. Daniel and Patricia posed proudly as Tommy's parents while Mark and I were excluded from every important shot. "These photos are for immediate family only," the photographer announced, following Daniel and Patricia's instructions to exclude us. "Jennifer can take pictures with Tommy later," Patricia said dismissively when Tommy asked about including me in family photos. Guest after guest congratulated Daniel and Patricia on raising such a wonderful son while I watched from the sidelines. "You must be so proud of Tommy," wedding guests told Daniel and Patricia. "He's clearly a product of excellent parenting. We tried our best to give him good values," Daniel would reply with false modesty while accepting credit for my parenting. "Tommy's success reflects the love and guidance we provided," Patricia would add, rewriting the history of their abandonment. During the reception dinner, Daniel gave a father of the groom speech that took complete credit for Tommy's character and achievements. "Patricia and I are so proud of the man Tommy has become," Daniel announced to the 200 wedding guests. "We raised Tommy to be honest, hardworking, and compassionate." Daniel continued his lies while I sat listening to him steal credit for my parenting. "Every parent hopes their child will grow up to be someone they can be proud of," Daniel said while accepting praise for work he'd never done. Tommy's success in college and his career reflect the values Patricia and I instilled in him. Daniel continued the false narrative. Patricia also spoke about the challenges of parenting and how rewarding it is to see your child find happiness. "Raising Tommy taught us so much about unconditional love," Patricia said to applause from guests who believed her lies. "Being Tommy's mother has been the greatest joy of my life," Patricia continued while I fought back tears of rage and frustration. The speeches painted Daniel and Patricia as devoted parents while completely erasing my 15 years of actual child rearing. Daniel and Patricia did such an amazing job with Tommy, guests commented during dinner. He's clearly been well loved and supported. Tommy looked increasingly uncomfortable as his biological parents accepted praise for raising him while I was ignored completely. Mark watched the entire day with growing anger as Daniel and Patricia accepted credit for raising Tommy while treating us like unwelcome guests. "This is unbelievable," Mark whispered to me during dinner. "They're acting like they raised Tommy when you've been his real parent for 15 years. I can't believe Tommy is letting them get away with this," Mark said while watching Daniel accept congratulations for excellent parenting. "Everyone here thinks Daniel and Patricia raised Tommy." Mark observed the complete success of their false narrative. "These people have no idea that you spent your life savings putting Tommy through school." Mark noted the financial sacrifices I'd made. "Daniel and Patricia are taking credit for every good thing about Tommy while you get treated like a stranger." Mark's anger was building throughout the evening as the reception continued. More guests approached Daniel and Patricia to praise their parenting while completely ignoring my role in Tommy's life. "You two raised such a fine young man," the bride's grandmother told Daniel and Patricia. "Tommy is a credit to your family. It's obvious Tommy comes from a loving home." Other guests added to the praise for Daniel and Patricia's supposed parenting. Mark's firefighter training had taught him to stay calm under pressure, but watching me be erased from Tommy's story was pushing him beyond his limits. "I can't watch this anymore," Mark told me quietly. "Someone needs to tell the truth about what really happened." The mounting tension was building toward an explosion that would change everything for Daniel and Patricia's carefully constructed lies. Beautiful souls. When my husband Mark finally reached his breaking point, his innocent question at the reception became the moment that forced Daniel and Patricia to confront the truth about abandoning their son. As Daniel finished accepting another round of congratulations for excellent parenting, Mark stood up from our table and approached a microphone. "Excuse me, everyone," Mark said politely while taking control of the reception microphone. "I have something I'd like to share about Tommy's family." Daniel and Patricia immediately looked panicked, realizing that Mark was about to disrupt their carefully orchestrated narrative. "Mark, this isn't the time," Patricia said desperately, while trying to stop him from speaking. "Let the men speak." Several guests encouraged, thinking Mark was going to give a touching family tribute. Mark looked directly at Daniel and Patricia with calm firefighter composure before asking his devastating question. "Isn't it wonderful that Jennifer finally gets to see her son get married after everything she's done for this family?" Mark asked with perfect innocence. The entire reception fell silent as guests processed Mark's words and the implications of calling me Tommy's mother. "What do you mean by that?" Sarah's father asked, clearly confused about the family relationships he thought he understood. "I think there might be some confusion about family roles," the bride's mother added, sensing that something important was being revealed. Daniel and Patricia sat frozen as they realized their lies were about to be exposed in front of 200 wedding guests. Mark continued his explanation with calm, factual statements that dismantled 15 years of lies about our family situation. "Jennifer has been Tommy's primary parent since he was 3 years old," Mark announced to the shocked wedding guests. "Daniel and Patricia left Tommy with us when he was a toddler while they pursued their careers in Europe." Mark continued the truth revelation. "Jennifer used her savings to put Tommy through school, took him to every doctor's appointment, and attended every parent-teacher conference for 15 years. Mark outlined my actual parenting role. She's been the only mother Tommy has really known," Mark concluded while guests stared at Daniel and Patricia in shock. The wedding reception erupted in whispered conversations as guests realized they'd been praising the wrong people for Tommy's upbringing. "Are you saying Daniel and Patricia didn't raise Tommy?" Sarah's grandmother asked for clarification. "That's exactly what I'm saying," Mark confirmed. "Jennifer has been Tommy's real parent while Daniel and Patricia visited occasionally from Europe." Tommy stood up and walked over to me, finally able to publicly acknowledge our real relationship. "Mom, Jennifer is the one who raised me," Tommy announced to the wedding guests. "She's been my real parent since I was little. Everything good about me comes from Mom Jennifer and Dad Mark," Tommy continued while embracing us in front of everyone. The crowd's reaction shifted from confusion to outrage as they understood how Daniel and Patricia had been lying about their parenting role. Daniel and Patricia tried desperately to defend their false narrative, but the truth was now obvious to everyone present. Jennifer volunteered to help with Tommy. Daniel said weakly, "We were grateful for her support during difficult times." "That's not true," Tommy interrupted his biological father. "You left me with Mom Jennifer and visited maybe twice a year. Jennifer made it difficult for us to be involved," Patricia claimed, still trying to maintain her lies. "You sent Christmas cards and birthday gifts," Tommy replied angrily. "Mom Jennifer did everything else." Sarah's family looked horrified as they realized their new in-laws had abandoned their child and lied about it for years. Daniel and Patricia told us they were devoted parents. Sarah's mother said with obvious disgust, "They've been lying to us about everything. How could you abandon your child and then lie about it?" Sarah's father confronted Daniel directly. Extended family members who had believed Daniel and Patricia's lies began apologizing to me for their treatment over the years. "Jennifer, we had no idea," my sister-in-law said with tears. "Daniel and Patricia told us you were interfering with their parenting. We thought you were being possessive of Tommy." Other relatives admitted their misunderstanding. "We didn't know they had abandoned him." The wedding reception became a family tribunal where Daniel and Patricia's 15 years of lies were exposed and condemned publicly. The wedding guests, particularly Sarah's family, demanded that Daniel and Patricia publicly apologize for their lies and acknowledge my role as Tommy's real parent. "You need to apologize to Jennifer immediately," Sarah's father demanded. "Your lies have caused years of family pain. Everyone here deserves to know the truth about who actually raised Tommy." Sarah's mother added her voice to the demand for honesty. "Jennifer sacrificed everything for your son while you took credit for her work," the bride's grandmother said with obvious anger. Daniel and Patricia were forced to publicly acknowledge their abandonment and my parenting role in front of all the wedding guests. "We left Tommy with Jennifer when he was young," Daniel admitted reluctantly. "She has been his primary caregiver. Jennifer raised Tommy and deserves credit for the man he's become." Patricia was forced to confess her lies. "We're sorry for not acknowledging Jennifer's role as Tommy's real mother," Daniel said while the entire reception watched his humiliation. The public apology was broadcast on social media by wedding guests, ensuring that everyone in their social circle would learn the truth about Daniel and Patricia's lies. This wedding apology is going viral. Guests were posting videos of Daniel and Patricia's forced confession and humiliation. Mark's simple question had accomplished what 15 years of my silence couldn't. It forced the truth into the open and destroyed Daniel and Patricia's false reputation. Gorgeous souls. Mark's truth bomb at the wedding created a domino effect that completely restructured our family relationships while Daniel and Patricia faced the consequences of 15 years of lies and child abandonment. Following the dramatic wedding revelation, Tommy immediately began referring to Mark and me as his real parents in front of all the guests. "I want everyone to know that Mom Jennifer and Dad Mark are my actual parents," Tommy announced during the reception. "They're the ones who deserve to be honored at my wedding," Tommy continued while escorting us to the parents' table. "Daniel and Patricia can sit with extended family," Tommy said while reversing the seating arrangement that had excluded us. Sarah fully supported Tommy's decision to acknowledge us as his real parents after learning the truth about his upbringing. "I had no idea Jennifer was the one who actually raised you," Sarah told Tommy. "Your biological parents completely misrepresented your family situation. I want Jennifer and Mark to be considered my real in-laws," Sarah announced to her family. "They're the ones who made Tommy the man I fell in love with." The wedding photographer was instructed to retake all family photos with Mark and me in the parents' positions while Daniel and Patricia were relegated to extended family shots. The official wedding photos need to reflect the real family relationships. Sarah's mother insisted on accurate documentation. "Jennifer and Mark deserve to be recognized as Tommy's parents in the wedding album." The photographer agreed to reshoot all the family pictures. Guest after guest approached us throughout the remainder of the reception to apologize for not knowing the truth and to thank me for raising such a wonderful young man. Videos and posts from the wedding reception went viral on social media. exposing Daniel and Patricia's lies to their entire professional and social network. Wedding guest exposes parents who abandoned their child became the trending story across multiple platforms. Daniel and Patricia Rodriguez lied about raising their son for 15 years was shared thousands of times by people disgusted by their deception. Their European friends and business associates learned the truth about their character through the viral wedding videos. We had no idea Daniel and Patricia had abandoned their child, former friends posted in response to the viral story. This explains why they never talked about parenting challenges. Business associates commented on their social media pages. Daniel and Patricia's professional reputations were damaged as clients and colleagues learned about their child abandonment and systematic lying. How can we trust people who abandon their child and lie about it for 15 years? Former clients posted publicly. Their social standing in the expat community collapsed as the truth about their character spread through international networks. The Rodriguez family has been lying to us about their family situation. Community leaders posted about their expulsion from social groups. The viral exposure ensured that Daniel and Patricia could never again claim credit for raising Tommy or maintain their false narrative. Tommy also demanded that Daniel and Patricia compensate me for the 15 years of financial support I'd provided while they lived abroad. Mom Jennifer spent her savings on my education and care, Tommy told his biological parents. You owe her for everything you should have paid. Jennifer deserves reimbursement for 15 years of child support that you never provided. Tommy's new father-in-law supported the financial claim. A family meeting was arranged where Daniel and Patricia were forced to calculate and repay the money I'd spent raising their abandoned son. Private school tuition, medical expenses, clothing, and activities totaled approximately $200,000 over 15 years. The financial calculation showed their debt to me. Daniel and Patricia must repay Jennifer for the child support they avoided by abandoning Tommy. The family unanimously agreed. We'll pay Jennifer back over time. Daniel and Patricia agreed while facing potential legal action for child abandonment. You also need to pay for Tommy's wedding costs that Jennifer and Mark have covered. Sarah's family demanded additional compensation. The financial reparations ensured that I would be compensated for my sacrifices while Daniel and Patricia faced the monetary consequences of their abandonment. Legal consultations also revealed that Daniel and Patricia could have faced criminal charges for child abandonment if I had chosen to pursue prosecution. Abandoning a 3-year-old child constitutes criminal neglect in most jurisdictions. Family attorneys explained their legal vulnerability. Extended family members who had believed Daniel and Patricia's lies for 15 years reached out to apologize and rebuild relationships with us. Jennifer, we're so sorry we believed Daniel and Patricia's stories about you. Relatives called to apologize. We had no idea they'd abandoned Tommy. You've been an amazing mother to Tommy, family members acknowledged. We should have recognized your sacrifices instead of believing lies. Daniel and Patricia manipulated all of us with their false narrative. Relatives expressed anger about being deceived for so long. Family gatherings were restructured to honor Mark and me as Tommy's real parents while Daniel and Patricia were treated as the negligent relatives they'd always been. Jennifer and Mark should have been getting credit for Tommy's achievements all along. Family members corrected years of misdirected praise. We're including Jennifer and Mark in family photos and events as Tommy's real parents. Relatives committed to accurate family recognition. The family reconciliation restored relationships that had been damaged by Daniel and Patricia's systematic lying and manipulation. Our family is stronger now that the truth is finally out. Relatives expressed relief about ending years of false narratives. Tommy gained a larger support system as extended family members embraced Mark and me as legitimate family members rather than interfering outsiders. Gorgeous souls. Mark's simple wedding question created a permanent shift in our family dynamics. That gave Tommy the parents he deserved while Daniel and Patricia faced lifelong consequences for their abandonment and lies. 6 months after the wedding, Tommy and Sarah officially asked Mark and me to be their children's primary grandparents when they start their family. We want our kids to have Jennifer and Mark as their main grandparents, Tommy announced during a family dinner. You're the ones who understand real parenting and family commitment. Sarah added her support for our elevated family role. Daniel and Patricia can be distant relatives to our children. Tommy decided about limiting their access to future grandchildren. We don't want our kids confused about who their real family is. Sarah explained their decision to prioritize our relationship. Mark and I were also included in all major family decisions and celebrations as Tommy's acknowledged parents. Mom, Jennifer and Dad Mark should be making important family decisions with us. Tommy established our rightful place in family hierarchy. Jennifer and Mark have earned the right to be considered Tommy's real parents. Sarah's family fully accepted our parental status. The family restructuring ensured that Mark and I received the recognition and respect we'd earned through 15 years of actual parenting. Daniel and Patricia's role was permanently diminished to occasional contact rather than primary family status. Daniel and Patricia's business relationships suffered permanent damage as the story of their child abandonment and lies spread through professional networks. Clients don't trust people who abandon children and lie about it. Former business partners explain their decision to end professional relationships. The Rodriguez abandonment story has damaged their reputation permanently. Industry contacts confirmed their professional isolation. Their social life in Europe collapsed as the expat community learned the truth about their character and systematic deception. We can't associate with people who abandon their children. Former friends posted publicly about cutting contact. Daniel and Patricia are no longer welcome in our community groups. Social organizations announced their expulsion. The viral wedding video continued to surface in internet searches of their names, ensuring permanent documentation of their character failures. Anyone who Googles Daniel or Patricia Rodriguez finds the wedding abandonment story. The internet permanently preserved their shame. Their attempts to rebuild their reputation were unsuccessful as the truth about their child abandonment was too well documented to overcome. You can't recover from abandoning your child and lying about it for 15 years. People would comment on their rare social media posts. Mark and I finally received the recognition we deserved for raising Tommy, while building a strong foundation for future family generations. Jennifer and Mark are examples of what real parents look like. Tommy tells people about our relationship. They showed me what commitment and sacrifice mean. Tommy credits us with teaching him family values. Our marriage was strengthened by the public vindication of our parenting and the community's recognition of our sacrifices. Mark's courage to speak the truth at the wedding showed everyone what kind of man he is. I appreciate his willingness to defend our family. Jennifer deserved to have her parenting acknowledged. Mark says about his motivation for speaking up at the wedding. Tommy's success in his career and marriage reflects the values and stability we provided during his formative years. Tommy's character comes from Jennifer's parenting. People now correctly attribute his achievements to my influence. Mark taught Tommy what a real father looks like. Our family recognizes his role in Tommy's development. The family healing allowed us to openly enjoy our role as Tommy's parents without hiding or minimizing our contributions. That's how you handle people who abandon their child and then lie about being good parents, y'all. Sometimes one simple question can expose 15 years of lies and restore justice to a family. Mark's willingness to speak truth to power at Tommy's wedding changed our entire family dynamic permanently. Daniel and Patricia learned that abandoning your child and lying about it has permanent consequences that can't be hidden forever. Never let people steal credit for your sacrifices, gorgeous souls. Truth has a way of emerging at exactly the right moment. My years of silent sacrifice were finally acknowledged because Mark had the courage to ask one simple question in front of people who mattered. Tommy now has the family recognition he deserved, and our sacrifices are honored by everyone who knows our real story. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply telling the truth and letting people judge character for themselves. Daniel and Patricia's lies couldn't survive one honest question asked at the right moment in front of the right people.